Welcome classic rock fans to a video where I look at the 10 albums that I listen to the most. And do stick around to the end, I'll include a few honourable mentions. If you're new to this channel, please do click like, subscribe and do check that notification bell. It's ever so important if you want to be notified of any new content. And check some of the links below this video for ways you can support the sterling work than a classic album review. So the 10 albums I listen to the most, and I haven't put them in any kind of ranking or specific order, just the 10 albums. So number 10 is Paul Simon's Stranger to Stranger. I'm a huge fan of this album. It strikes a different tone to the gorgeous So Beautiful, So What, by the way. Another album which I think is fantastic. His later work is, I think, been absolutely sublime, quite frankly. Struggling to get into Seven Psalms, but I'm working on it. But this album demonstrates everything that's wonderful about Simon as a writer. Profound and pithy. AllMusic says that it embraces the cut and paste contradictions endemic to the digital age. It's certainly an album that feels as if it's been built from the kind of rhythm up. But Simon's been doing this ever since those Simon and Garfunkel days. He's constantly toying and exploring the rhythmic possibilities of music. This album is bracing and ambitious, certainly as ambitious as that wonderful collaboration he did with Brian Eno in 2006. An album that was kind of overshadowed by the ghost of 9/11. This album finds Simon very much at peace and able to explore the comic potential of numerous situations. Wristband is a wonderful song, perhaps a candid meditation on fame. It's an interesting album where Simon explores the acknowledging that he's in the twilight of his years, but unlike Seven Psalms, he's not quite galloping towards it. Another great track on this is Werewolf, for that exquisite guitar sound at the start, which emulates the wolf howl. Number 9 is Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street from 1972. I love the murk and sound of this. It's subterranean, quite frankly. It has this claustrophobic, sullied air as we're transported back to that basement on the French Riviera from 1972 with no air condition, ventilator blues or what. It just sounds so dangerous. We feel almost voyeuristic listening to it, from Jagger's smacked out drawl to the guitar joustings of Mick Taylor and Keith Richards, all undulating under the oppressive heat and sweat of this record. Disappointed that this album was virtually ignored for its 50th anniversary. I've heard on the rumour mill that Jagger's not a big fan of this album. Maybe that has something to do with it, but their 60th anniversary tour and the 50th anniversary of this album, it didn't even get a look in. They played Tumbling Dice, but they always play Tumbling Dice. So I'm a bit disappointed about that. And also disappointed there wasn't a 50th anniversary special set. I know there was a 40th one, but I want something with loads of swag and perhaps a new documentary, an acoustic set where they sit down and play a few numbers from this album that they rarely do play. Like Sweet Black Angel, love that song. Don't think they've played it since 1972. Number 8 is The National, High Violet from 2010, I believe. This is their finest album, I think. Although I must admit their new one pushes this one pretty damn close. It's a great record. It's ideal music for sad, sack of shite dads like myself. Although I'm dragging my daughter, in a couple of weeks' time, I'm dragging my daughter to see them. Child abuse or what, eh? But this band are very much the order of the day for me, with this dark sneering and a pathological miserableness. I don't know if that's not a word, it certainly is now, causing many to argue that this band are in fact the bastard progeny of Leonard Cohen and the Joy Division, covering everything from modern neurosis, medication and warfare. It's like a vitamin shot, an existential shot that you need to start your day with. I love lines like "Sorrow got me young and put me on the pill," as well as from Blood Buzz Ohio's "Carried to Ohio on a swarm of bees." How delightful is that? Number 7 is The Cure's Disintegration from 1989. This album I had on repeat all year, as I'm kind of really getting into this band, but this album in particular, I love all that ambient shit, to be honest with you. It's quite a gnarly ambient experience. It's a slow, dark contemplation. This album is like a sonic balm, really, a self-soothing bath which you just immerse yourself in. As I said, I love the ornamental synths and the birds and the buzz of bees which starts this album. Before we get that gloomy and stormy upsurge of the opening track, Plain Song. That's it. Number 6 is Topographic Oceans by Yes from 1973. This is very much my go-to Yes album. I agree that it's perhaps not as good as Close to the Edge. Close to the Edge is a much tighter, well-constructed affair. I think it's not such a big baggy monster. But for many Yes fans, many prog fans indeed, this album is where it all goes to see. I try not to focus too much on what's going on and what the individual message of each representation of the Shastra is. I've done a video on this, by the way. I'll stick a card up there if you want to check it out. But instead, I just allow myself to float and drift on the waves and waves of sound. See what I did there? Anyway, this oceanic expanse of an album is one that I like to lose myself in at least once a year. And whenever I feel like listening to classic Yes, this is the one I put on. Number 5 is Genesis, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway from 1974. Or was it 1975? I can't remember. This is a remarkable piece of mind-fuckery, really. Although, like Topographic Oceans, I've stopped trying to focus on every twist and turn of the narrative so I can understand what really is going on. I just figured it's a bit muddled, a bit opaque. I just interpret it now as a one big acid trip, or just a dream perhaps, which everything is possible, and just enjoy the impressions and twists and turns where each song takes us. And it's such a melodic album as well. I mean, sides 1 and 2, just such a pleasurable, hooky listen before it gets onto the weird fiddly diddly and atmospheric shit that we get on side 3 and 4. That's when Rael meets the Doctor for the Dr. Snipper, I call him, before he loses his Todger and his mind, I think, and he vanishes over the waterfall in pursuit of his lost brother after losing his old man. The aforementioned Todger, of course, is carried away by some strange prog eagle. If this hasn't enticed you to listen to this album, I don't know what will. But it's now my listen to. I love it, I enjoy it, I love the songs and the melodies, and even the more experimental stuff on it. There isn't anything I would trim from it. I think it's absolutely perfect. Except the narrative, of course, which is, as I said, I treat this as a strange dream and just leave it there. Number 4 is Odyssey and Oracle by the Zombies from 1968. This album, I mean, my word, you can just bathe in the sounds of the lysergic swoops and swirls and that mellotron. Top-class engineering and songwriting on this groundbreaking and misspelt album. Wonderful numbers like the Eleanor Rigby-esque Rose for Emily, to the kind of hard-hitting anti-war anthem A Butcher's Tale, the sublime Beechwood Park, and my favourite is Hung Up on a Dream. Number 3 is Pink Floyd's Atom Heart Mother. This album is such an important album, not only for the band. I know David Gilmour says actually it's Medal, which is the first really important album for this band. I don't agree. I think what's going on Medal you can start to hear being thrashed out on this record, and Music from the Body and the Zabriskie Point soundtrack, all converging in a much more fully realised form that is Atom Heart Mother. Yes, it's a bit patchy and a bit sporadic, of course, and I know Waters and Gilmour have both dismissed it as absolute nonsense, but I think it's remarkable, and it's perhaps one of their most important albums. It is a vital stepping stone towards those conceptual masterpieces they produced in the 1970s. It has elements of those laid-back acoustic numbers that the Floyd were gravitating towards, away from the swirly and trippy psychedelia of the late 60s. In fact, I so much love this album, I used to collect vinyl bootlegs from the 1970-71 tour. I just love this. I love the Atom Heart Mother suite. I like Richard Wright's groupie song, Roger Waters' plaintive and chilling If. And of course Dave Gilmour's very Crosby, Stills and Nash inspired Fat Old Son. Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast is often cited as one of the worst Floyd songs. It's a track I love, really. It's a hangover from the Man and the Journey tour, I think. But there you go, Atom Heart Mother from 1970. What a fine, fine album. Number 2 is Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, The Boatman's Call from 1997. This album, following hard upon the excessive morbidity of Murder Ballads, of course, is a massive shift in tone. Far more introspective and poignant, I think. And Murder Ballads, you can't take anything away from the success of that album. It propelled him into the front rooms of unsuspecting people everywhere. The man, of course, dubbed the Goth Sinatra by Rolling Stone. But this album is brutally stark and frankly disarming, which is, quite frankly, the charm and beauty of it. I was quite surprised to see this punky and gangly renegade from an age that wasn't quite sure what to make of him just perform this mesmerising collection of songs. This album cements his reputation as a songwriter, as it's an album that struggles with love, failed relationships and faith, a loss of faith. It's a wonderful song cycle that is, as I said, built around failed relationships and religious doubt. But it's that religious doubt, I think, that really strikes a chord with me. The opening track as well is wonderful. People Are Just No Good. Another wonderful number of this one. Lime Tree Arbor, my favourite, I think, on this record. An album that is both very honest and despairing, employing gothic biblical imagery, which is something he seems to do very well. This album lacks the theatrical elements of the last record. It lacks Kylie as well. And number one is an album that I listen to every summer, and that is the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds from 1966. I listen to it without fail, to be honest with you. It almost marks the beginning of my summer. It's an album that's imbued with this sense of longing and hymnal wonder at the complexities of navigating the adult world, the disappointments and the disillusions of it. Almost a longing for a childhood that is passing as well, to a certain extent. I love the way that I think it's a guitar at the start of Wouldn't It Be Nice is played like a child's toy, that emphasis on a loss of innocence. I'm one of those souls that just can't help but marvel at the beauty of this album. I guess I just wasn't made for these times. So as an additional extra, a few albums that I also listen to on a regular basis. Buffalo Springfield's debut album. The band have expressed disappointment that it failed to capture the energy of the live sound, but I think it's a wonderful record. The Beatles' White Album is one I listen to quite a lot, and Joni Mitchell's Ladies of the Canyon is another great one. So there you are, that's my 10 albums that I listen to the most. I hope you found this video enjoyable. I'll leave you with my closing catchphrase, which is hope you're well, staying safe, and that you keep listening.